Welcome to Kettlebell Corner, where strength meets theory, where we take you on a deeper dive into all things kettlebell. And are you somebody that might feel like your swing is off, like you're missing something, like you were never taught the missing link between control and release? And I'm not talking Brendan Fraser and Encino Man, Roger. This is serious stuff. Most coaches focus on shapes and muscles, not forces and timing. So what we're going to do today is provide you that missing link and explain a little bit of how it all works. And since I got you here, go ahead and subscribe, follow, like, share. And if you're on Spotify, you can send us a direct message. You can even send us anything you want to say about Roger. Speaking of, Roger, what's up? How you doing, brother?
I once again have failed to understand your cultural reference.
You saw that movie, Pauly Shore, Encino Man. They got to go all over the valley to do something, and they end up in some bar I'm sure you've attended at some point in your life. He's from the valley, folks.
Maybe. What was it? Was the implication that he's the missing link?
Well, I don't know if that was the implication, but isn't that the idea? The missing link is like you start as an ape and then you become a Homo sapien and then you're a man. Is that right?
We'll go, in the interest of time, we'll go with yes.
Okay, good. And you know what? This is a kettlebell show, so don't even worry about anyways. All right, so let me just start this out. Okay, I said it in the beginning, and we want to provide you a little something that you can take. And Roger, we're going to go ahead and get your take on this because, hey, that's one great take out of a grumpy mug. And I'm not talking about your face. That was an actual grumpy mug, if you didn't see it. But I said you're taught shapes, not forces. We've been shown how it looks, but not how it works. Can we talk about some of these core concepts that are going to go into defining where you can get this missing link corrected?
Yes.
All right. Perfect. And now is the time. I believe we've got Kinematics and Kinetics, and I've never played with any of those toys, so you'll have to enlighten me on them.
Okay. I think I can do that. This idea, or this resurgence of this idea, and people who are close enough to me can attest that this is something I will talk about frequently and annoyingly, is the idea that this is like that. It came up again this weekend. I went to a barbell certification, which was good. I enjoyed it. And
did you pass?
Not as far as I know.
Okay, congratulations.
As far as I know, I was told I passed, but it could have just been a conspiracy to get me to leave them alone.
Yeah,
but
probably.
In the manual, there was talk, I believe it was the good morning, and the good morning was compared. I think it was called the grind analog to the swing. And there are some similar shapes, but this reinforced again, the certification was great. The manual is fantastic, really resourceful. But when you break down ways that things are similar and not similar, there are some very, very, very key differences between a good morning and a swing. However, if you're looking at the shape of the two movements, forget about where you're loading, which is wildly different as well.
Probably the main thing.
But when you're looking at the basic shape, then you're like, oh yeah, that's similar, and you can see that. And I think that has its place, but there does become a problem with new students, especially. And I think coaches have inherited this problem because this is the way it's taught, in that we look at shapes, and by shapes I just mean, hey, this looks like that. Your butt's back, your torso's down, your knees are bent a little bit. Oh, that's the shape of a swing. That's how it's supposed to look. You're taught to assume a certain shape, or you were taught to use particular muscles, and that's important. But as a student, you are left hanging because you don't really understand the proper things that you should feel. So when we get into this idea of motion, what we're talking about, from a physics standpoint, without getting into this deeply, the kinematics, the way I was taught, is think of it as cinematics. It's what you might see. So it's about observation. So you're getting into directions and shapes and things like that. Kinetics are about how the force is produced. It's about the act of making motion happen. So one is about observing motion, the other one is about making motion. And when it comes to kettlebells, especially the swing, I feel like there's an over-reliance on kinematics and saying, this is like this, and then there's no bridge between the deadlift, right? Because it is kinematically similar, and we can even call it identical with the exception of the starting position and the kinetics of a swing. And when you're told these are the same things, and you're told a deadlift ad nauseum, lots and lots of deadlifts. Oh, got that down, let's go. And sometimes what will happen is you'll add in a hike. Then what happens is you stand up and you have a fast deadlift that starts with a hike. So there are people who get confused. Several people have gotten confused, and I don't think that a lot of people get this right. So I think if we clear this up a little bit, I think we can save some people some time. And I also think that when I've changed this in my coaching, the time that it's taken me to teach swings has gone way down. And the time that it takes for, there was a time, and part of this probably just me getting better as a coach and getting these things down. But there was a time when it was taking a while for people to get this stuff. And now what I find is I have to slow them down because I know there's got to be some tissue tolerance that needs to build, some tissue quality improvements. So we get the really, really solid swings done right away. And then I have to pump the brakes because I know if people start doing 100 plus swings in a session, there's a little bit of a risk. The point is, I started teaching a swing kinetically rather than kinematically, and creating drills between the what I call our bridge drills between the squat and the deadlift and the actual swing.
Wow. So not only are you teaching people faster than ever, you have to hold them back so they're not better than ever. I like this. I can attest.
I hold them back so they don't hurt themselves.
Yeah. No, I kid, but I can attest that certainly because I know what we're about to talk about as far as the drills and stuff like that. They are the only way I teach the swing, and it happens same day. Like, show me a deadlift, show me a squat, do this drill. There you go. You're swinging. We'll get to the hike. You know what I mean? So if cues and shapes aren't enough and we need a bridge, a way to teach the body to generate and release force, what are we going to do to get that? So we have a deadlift and we have a swing. The deadlift, I assume, is where we're going to focus first. Like, that's generating force. Am I correct in that sort of thing?
Well, okay, so it's all part of force generation. But if you're getting into the idea of why do we teach a deadlift, right? What is the importance of this? So when we're looking at the kinematics of exercise, when we're looking at shapes and things like that and directions, assuming you have the right kinetics layered in, meaning you are generating the right forces, then the kinematics are going to influence how you're generating those forces. So when you are looking at the shape of the swing, when you're layering in that piece, then you've done some important things by grooving this deadlift. I'm not saying it's not important. It's absolutely important. The two main things you're doing is you are biasing the back of your body, specifically the glutes and the hamstrings, along with the quads too, but the glutes and the hamstrings to work. Those are really big, strong muscles, and they're important to develop for a lot of people, for sport, for life, all of these things. And if you're looking to have a swing that is powerful, then you're going to want to do that. The second thing you're doing is you are giving the bell a lot of room to accelerate. Something that I've said before, and I'll probably say again, is there's a strong connection between acceleration and distance. So if you want something to accelerate, so when you hear that force equation, F equals ma, A is the acceleration. When you want acceleration to increase, you're going to need distance in many cases. And this is no different. So by getting back into the back of the swing, the deadlift, call it a hinge, whatever you want, the shape part of it allows you to have more room to move the bell. The more room you have to move the bell, the more force you can generate, the harder your swing is going to be, the faster, whatever it is you want to train. So two important things. You're loading up the muscles we want to use, and we're giving you a nice long runway, nice distance. And this runway analogy is going to come in handy. We're going to talk about that in a bit. So the deadlift also practically, okay, so that's what the swing needs. practically what the deadlift teaches is starting position, and it teaches you how to move through your hips and your knees rather than your spine. So those are really important lessons. So in no way am I suggesting that a deadlift is a bad thing to teach before a swing, because I'm not. And in that sense, when people, there's this argument, a swing is a hinge. Well, okay. Um, there's a hinge in a swing, but that's a
Yeah, there's
component
also a
part.
knee bend.
It's almost like saying, yeah, it's almost like saying, flowers are cookie. It's like, no, flour is in flour is an
Yeah.
ingredient in cookies, right?
Yeah.
So could chocolate chips be, and butter and whatever else you put in there, but it is a component part. It is not the same thing.
All right. So if that gives us the runway and develops that muscle that we need to really generate the appropriate force, whatever we're doing, what's the swing going to add to this element then? Is if the deadlift is the flour, is the swing the chocolate chips for this cookie analogy, Roger?
No, the swing would be all of the ingredients put together and
Okay.
and
The
baked.
swing is the cookie.
Yes,
swings.
the swing is the cookie. So swing's not a hinge, a swing is a cookie. We're done with this episode.
Okay.
I think
perfect.
we've cleared all questions up.
And now get some milk.
But I think this might accidentally be a useful analogy, because there are several things that go into this, and the hinge is only one part. It's only one ingredient. So just like you wouldn't put flour in a bowl and say, all right, I've made cookies, right?
Mhm.
You gotta do some other stuff too. So that gets you set up to have a swing. You need to apply force, and there are some important things that you need to consider. One, again, this is something else we talk about too much, is that the force you produce is actually vertical. It's not horizontal. Okay.
But my butt goes backwards, Roger.
It does.
Yeah.
But it moves backwards. It moves backwards to prime those muscles, because those muscles are going to be useful in generating vertical force. They're also going to set the path of the bell. They're also going to give you it's also going to give you a lot of room for acceleration. But the thing that makes that all happen is a downward vertical force that's going to cause, ultimately it's going to cause torque of the femurs. It's going to make the pelvis come forward, which is going to make the torso move, which is attached to the arms, which is going to swing the bell. I don't think this stuff is all that important, because at the end of the day, if you find the right position, you push your feet down hard, then you're going to be good to go. The thing that's missing, though, the key ingredient, I think, that really separates the deadlift from the swing is speed. How fast are you doing this? Because if you don't get things to the proper speed, you might have a fast deadlift, but you're not going to have a swing. And that's go ahead.
Well, is it because the fast deadlift, the weight just is traveling basically up and down in front of you? It never gets behind you to generate that speed, or to have that runway or that path for acceleration.
That's part of it. That's part of it. Part of it is, where the bell starts, and that's where the height comes in. So if you do know how to drive your feet down hard and fast enough, and you know that deadlift, and then you bring the bell behind you, then you can go into a swing. But I think this is a product of reverse engineering. I think that when you set yourself, you were the head of a kettlebell organization, and you set the task, and you sit down with all your coaches and you say, okay, we got to teach this stupid thing. Let's break this down into its simplest parts, and let's give people something that's digestible and approachable. And you say, okay, well, if I can get people in this shape, and I can teach them how to use their legs rather than their spine, and then I tell them to stand up fast, then that bell's going to swing, and everyone's going to nod in agreement and like, oh yeah.
You did it.
Right?
You're the best.
And in a way, that's true, and that works for some people. It absolutely does, but there are many people for whom that does not work. And the speed at which you need to move is the missing ingredient here. So even if you have a bell that starts in the backswing, if you don't go fast enough, you're not going to have a swing. Is not going to happen. So what I choose to do is find that position, not leave it to chance, and then teach people through another drill how to generate the right speed. Because when people don't understand exactly how fast they need to move, they don't get the swing.
All right. So let's just get to this drill. So this drill is designed to teach the speed that you need essentially to get the kettlebell to go. And I love this drill, not only because of the name, because, it does feel weird to say sometimes, especially when you're like, we're going to do a drill right quick, and I'm going to teach you how to swing in approximately 1 minute. It's called the Horny Thighs Drill. Horny Thighs Drill. What is it, Roger? Walk us through this Horny Thighs Drill and how we can have everybody either learning or teaching kettlebells apply this and cut out. I'm going to be bold and cut out 80% of the learning factor.
Okay.
All right. I didn't say 100, but
first of all, this is a drill that you can use. This is what we use. There are other drills. We've used several drills. We've used jumps, and jumps are not a bad thing to use because sometimes most people have a frame of reference for a jump. So if you think about, let's say, going down into a squat, right? A lot of people will go down into the squat pattern. And if you stand up really fast, are you going to jump? Maybe, but probably not. There's something extra, there's something different that you intuitively know that, wait a second, just standing up really fast isn't going to make me leave the ground. I need to do something extra special. I need to push the ground really hard and really fast and generate even more acceleration than that. And that will actually make me leave the ground. So the jump is sometimes a useful way. But going back to this drill, it was originally conceived because there's another problem with the swing, especially with new students, and that's where you break into the backswing too soon. It's when you are not waiting and you're not getting that full reconnection. So what happens is the energy of your swing is going all kinds of different directions. Your arms are still coming down, and in a sense, your hips are moving back and away, right? You're chasing, the bell is chasing your hips, and you don't want to do that. You want everything to move as a unit. So the Horny Thighs Drill, that really just refers to the horns of the bell. And
okay.
feeling it on your thighs.
Yeah.
So, it was designed originally to say, hey, take a couple really small swings and wait until you feel, first, just let it hit you. Don't worry about it. It's not going to hurt, right?
It's not a missile, for crying out loud.
No, you're going to feel the rubbing, obviously, but it's not going to hurt you. So first, feel that the bell is not in a place where it can harm you. So you don't need to be afraid of it. And then what you're doing is you're kind of generating these very small hip actions in order to get the bell to swing very, very, a couple inches away from you. And you're not breaking back into the backswing until you feel the horns on your thighs. So that was what it was originally designed to do. And then you begin to gain momentum, and then you begin to go deeper and deeper. Soon enough, you've got full swings, and you're waiting every time to feel the horns of the bell on your thighs before you break back. So it was designed to solve another question. But then, we realized, wait a second, this is a good bridge drill. We can cut out these 3 or 4 other drills that we thought about in order to make sure that we can go effectively from the deadlift all the way to the swing. And this is a good non-threatening way. I don't know about you. I rarely teach the hike right away. I don't feel the need to. No. I think it confuses people. It generates a certain amount of threat. For some people, if they can get it, cool. But, it's not really important to me.
Yeah, it's the last thing I usually will teach because, now you do have to combine integration of the bell to the body with that force generation, and essentially enough force that you would jump but not jump. So that's the Horny Thigh Drill's idea. Let me just explain it real quick for everybody. And you're standing tall, so you deadlift the bell up, and you're standing tall, and the bell's hanging down right below, as Roger affectionately refers to it as your junk. And then the horns are touching your inner thighs, the horns being the handle aspect of the kettlebell for those who don't know. And then you're just going to keep that plank, letting the bell hang there. And I sort of like to say, just make sure you're pulling those arms into your body. Like, this is a good opportunity to get that aspect of the swing in every kettlebell ballistic that matters, to keep it close. And then you're going to then hinge back slightly, like Roger mentioned, and sort of it gets it rocking. All right. And you know what? I'll even put a video of it in here. So if you're listening, you could watch the video and you'll see it. And then that momentum begins to build. And then pretty soon you're getting that full swing, arms out, you're getting a float, but you're also simultaneously grooving that same thing that Roger mentioned, where you're waiting for it to hit your legs before you break back. So if you're wearing short shorts, it's going to hit your skin. But if you're wearing like pants or like a little longer shorts, typically these workout gears, you can hear, and I think this is this is kinetic, Roger, if you can hear and feel the sound of the bell hitting those thighs.
It's certainly tactile. It's certainly, you know,
Tactile. Okay.
for me, kinetic drills are drills that teach how to generate motion. So
Okay.
definitely useful there. There is one more thing though that I want to point out. Wait, were you done with the drill?
Yeah.
Okay. One other
I
thing
can
that I
swing.
want to I want to point out that with this drill, you're also learning about the elastic component of the swing. You don't get that with a deadlift. The deadlift, the eccentric is straight up and down. It's not down at a 45-degree angle. So this drill not only teaches the appropriate speed, but it teaches you to get the bell back. Your center of mass is traveling back rather than, to a greater degree because the bell is moving back, and you're learning to get this sort of elasticity. Once you start to build momentum, you're going to feel when you hit the back of the backswing and you stay tight, the belt just wants to swing on its own. So you're going to create that stretch reflex, which is important. You need the elasticity, and then all you have to do is push your feet straight down, and then in fact you will be able to get a swing. So this is an intuitive way to do this, and in fact this is why I've switched from jumps, because jumps I think are a lot closer to a swing than a deadlift. However, they don't teach you how to manipulate the bell. So this is a very simple, one of the last people I taught this drill is 70 years old,
All right.
and
Good. Good.
everything went off without a hitch. It
Heck
went
yeah.
well.
48 kilos. Get the horny thighs going. Bam, you're swinging. No, I'm just kidding. You usually start a little lighter, just to kind of feel that. But there's a big difference between the deadlift and the swing that I think is super important. And it may be the most important is the fact that it's ballistic. So as you're doing this horny thighs drill, and let's say we're getting it going, but we haven't let that bell come off the body yet. What's our next step in this procedure then? Is it just pushing the butt back more? Is it pushing the legs down harder? Combination of the two? And what is ballistic?
Yeah, that's exactly. You're gonna continue to increase your range of motion, and then um you're gonna move back farther and drive your legs down faster. That coupled with the elasticity is going to make everything happen. And this is a drill that it's something you need to experience. It's harder to describe, whereas a hinge drill, like, we can describe how to set up, but we can't really describe what you're going to feel. You need to feel it for yourself. And that's kind of how you have a good drill on your hands, that teaches the experience rather than the way something should look. So yeah, you increase your range of motion, increase the force with which you drive your feet down, and that's going to make the bell swing more. The idea of ballistic, there are a few different ways to define it, but you're going to have a period of, let's say, throwing. It comes from a word meaning to throw, and a period of free flight. So in the case of the kettlebell, you essentially need to do something to throw the kettlebell, right? And then that kettlebell needs to be released. Now, some people argue that a kettlebell swing never gets fully ballistic because it's still in your hands, but there is a period of what would be free flight. That free flight is constrained by your arms, which bring it through the arc. But in order for something to be ballistic, you need to generate the force. You need to generate the force at the bottom, and it needs to continue up to the top on its own. And there should be a period where you're pushing your legs down really hard, and then you can let your arms relax. And in fact, if you were to let go of the bell, it would just continue to go. Whereas a deadlift, as soon as you let go of the bell is going to fall straight to the ground, right?
Yeah.
The deadlift is about constant tension. So you need to, anytime you lift something off the ground, you need to go faster than gravity. You need to accelerate gravity, but it's about degree, right? So it's not just about creating motion. And one thing that I like to think about and compare the swing to, the actual ballistic part of a swing, is a plane taking off. So imagine a runway, right? You've got a finite amount of distance over which to build enough speed for the plane to come off the ground. Now, if you've been in a plane for any length of time, you know that you go from a gate and the plane is moving, but it's not flying. It's getting into that point. You're getting to you're taxiing down the runway, and you're getting to the point where you're going to take off. When it's time to take off, you know it. You've got all of the engines are rumbling, and you build up at just a tremendous amount of speed enough so that the plane actually lifts off the ground. And that is one of the differences between a grind and a ballistic. Is it's almost like a grind would be you're on the runway, right? And you are moving, but you're not moving fast enough to take off.
You
So
might get
you
to the
need,
end of the runway, but
sure.
that's it.
It is generating in physics speak what is the proper impulse, which is something that's going to change the momentum of an object. It's calculated by the force that you apply and the time over which you apply it. The type of impulse that you're going to need to change the momentum of a bell to make it swing, it needs to be really strong and it needs to be really short, because if it's spread out over time, it's not going to swing. So even if you have a lot of force, if it's spread over too much time, the bell will move, but it will not swing.
Yeah, you kind of be muscling it at that point, right? You'd go back and it would probably come down real low between your legs and you'll try to front raise it up there.
Sure.
And that plane won't fly, folks. That plane won't fly. So you'll really drive those legs, and there's a certain feeling you have when you've made this connection. I'd be lying to you to say that I feel it every time I swing, because I don't. I try. I have good swings, but that's part of the practice, and really being able to generate that force, get your hips back as far as you can with that allows for what you need to get this feeling, holding those arms to the body just like you did in the Horny Thighs Drill, but then letting that release happen. And that is setting the bell up. And it just makes such a quick sort of, like, I guess, weightless feeling where the bell
Mhm.
just feels like, oh, it's doing it. My arms are doing nothing but holding it on so I can bring it back for rep number 2 or 10 or whatever. And that's where the float comes in at the top right before it comes back down. And I think that is the true essence of the swing, which is, when you feel it, because your timing was good, because your Horny Thighs Drill paid off in the end. Because if you wait for it, then you're going to be as integrated as possible, and you won't have that force leakage that could come from one of those slow runways, right?
Sure. And you mentioned the arms, and the arms are an important point. What the arms are doing is really one of the main differences between a deadlift and a swing. And when you're deadlifting, your arms are always tense. There's always something pulling down on your arms. Okay, you were pulling up on the bell. However you want to say it. There's always tension, but when you generate the proper impulse to make a swing happen, your arms aren't really doing anything but keeping the bell from flying away from you. You are not muscling it up to the top. And what happens, there are degrees of ballistic. So you can technically make the bell kind of ballistic, and it's flying up on its own, and you're still kind of pulling it up. You're still using your back and your arms. You're using it less. So it looks like a swing, right? And
Yeah.
and some people might call it one. I don't. Um, but it still might be a swing, but you're still using your arms too much. And in my opinion, a swing is something where you are only using your arms to connect the bell to you, rather than using them to lift the bell to the top. And that is something that this bridge drill teaches, that when you understand the right speed that you need to move, when you understand the elasticity and how to change the momentum of the bell, then this stuff just kind of magically happens on its own. And suddenly your arms, rather than being important, rather than you trying to use them to swing the bell, they're really just there to keep the bell connected to you, and then to keep the bell in the nice tight arc of a swing rather than flying away from you.
Yeah, and going through the wall or falling to the ground. And if your hands are slippery, it might fall out still. It's happened. Just get out of the way. So it's not that the deadlift is a bad thing, because it's useful. It's not that the swing has to start at the hike. There are many avenues to this. They all kind of, as you say, come together and form this cookie called the kettlebell swing. And figuring this out through feeling is probably going to get you there, in our experience, quicker than just looking and saying, shouting out, squeeze your butt, squeeze your quads, make your abs tight, wait for the bell to get back to your body. Because how do you know if you're in the moment? These swings happen really fast. So we got this Horny Thighs drill, Roger. Do we have a protocol that we could send everybody away with that they could practice? having seen the Horny Thighs Drill, or at least heard how it's explained, trying it out, how do you go about that? Because you did say you'll now have to kind of help people rein in their swinging ability at first, just so they could build up that tissue tolerance.
Sure. I
How
mean,
do you recommend that?
if you want, if you want the quick and dirty version of what I'm looking at, the checkpoints I use as a coach to make sure somebody swing, here they are. Can you stand up straight? Not
Mhm.
everybody can. If you
Oh,
can't,
okay.
then you're not ready to swing.
Okay.
So, we there are some prerequisites and we want to check off all of those boxes. But then assuming that, you have the ability to create some tension, okay? Tension is important for all athletic endeavors, but this one in particular. So I will maybe have someone do a standing plank where they're standing up tall, bell in front of them, and they lift the bell away from them just a little bit. And then maybe we'll practice like a power breath or something like that so they can figure out how to get tense in the midsection. Once they do that, I will have them squat because there is a vertical component, a huge vertical component of a swing. So, can you move up and down while stabilizing your spine and moving through your hips and your knees? In this case, a little more through your knees than your hips. Then I will have you deadlift. Can you move to get can you find your proper backswing? Okay. Getting into a position where your torso is roughly 45 degrees. And then can you move through, again, the hips and the knees by pushing the floor away? And going back to the beginning, this also assumes that we found the right stance for you and we have separate drills for that. I think we just did an episode of, where we talked about that not that long ago. So
Yeah.
you could link that. And that will actually help you figure out what that is. But then after the deadlift, then I go right to the Horny Thighs Drill. I do not go to the hike. I'm not interested in the hike. I don't care. I think it's an unnatural place for the swing to start in the beginning. So I would rather somebody get really, really confident with these swings and they do the Horny Thighs Drill and they're swinging. And then usually after, a couple rounds, they're kind of looking at me like, oh, what just happened? And then I go from there. And then once they're ready, and they've done some swings. I don't want them to do too many because again, this is it can be it's these are not dangerous skills, but any movement that you do that you're new to can pose a bit of a problem. So you need to build some tissue tolerance. At which point, if there's still some time, then maybe I'll start to build the hike position without actually bringing the bell for a ride, just teaching people, let's get your really reinforce your backswing position and reinforce the idea that your arms are there to pull the belt towards you, not to lift it away. And that's it. That is usually those are the steps I use.
There you go. Now you can swing. So if you didn't know how to swing and you saw this little clip on the internet, guess what? You are swinging now. No problemo. And thank us later by a subscription.
Well,
Uh,
assuming they can assuming they can see the drill, because I do think the drill is helpful. And again, it provides things that you feel. You're not
Yeah.
looking, you're not doing the drill and then going and checking your phone because you filmed yourself, say, hey, did I get that right?
Yeah.
You will feel if you get it right. Are you standing up tall? Do you feel the horns on your thighs? Are you breaking back once you feel the horns on your thighs? Do you feel tension in the glutes and the hamstrings? Do you feel a snap? When you're standing up, and does that bell move away? Does it actually fly away from you? And if you feel all those things, then you're doing it right and you've done a swing and you don't need to worry about anything else other than the programming aspect of kettlebells. Now, how many should I do? Should I do swings and grinds in the same workout? What type of swing should I use? These are the questions that then present themselves. But
But
we've got to
first you got
get,
to swing.
yeah, you got to get the right swing down first.
Right. So I think that pretty much covers that drill there, Roger. I don't know what else we could add, but if you felt like you haven't been able to unlock the swing, this surely get you there. It's not your fault. All you needed was a caveman to explain it to you. And luckily we have one here at the Iron Revival. And his name is Jeremiah. But Roger, that being said, is that it for this? Can we use this Horny Thighs drill anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean, you can use it anytime you want to build your ballistics. I mean, it's
you go.
easier to do. It's easier to do with a two-hand swing, but you can do it with a one-hand swing. You can begin to do it with a snatch. It's going to be a lot harder. By the time you're snatching, you probably already have this stuff down. So, use it for a two-arm swing, use it for a one-arm swing, and anytime you're really worried about breaking back too soon, you can as Jeremiah would say, you can bust this out.
Bust it out. And there you go. And no problem. So from the ground up, that's how you swing. All right. Thanks for listening to this episode, and be sure to download the Bells app. It's free, and there are programs in there if you want to get better at kettlebells. And we even have them that teach you about swinging, believe it or not. All right. Anything else, Roger?
Nope.
All right. Stay strong, everybody. Thanks for listening.